Language is the biggest identity for a human being. What you try to achieve through imposition. You read the NEP, they are worshipping Sanskrit because it is Brahminical language. Sanskrit is a dead language. It is only in scriptures. IIT Madras only displays boards only in English and Hindi. Nothing Tamil. Absolutely, they don't even touch any South Indian language. Do they have a department for promoting other languages? When you learn in your own language, your absorbing capacity is much better. We have a union minister for the HRD minister, Pokhriyal. He speaks only Hindi. Now, how do you expect them to promote the other languages? No, I don't. If you had given any other statement welcoming, ADMK would have been wiped out.
This is the NEP debate by edXlive.com. We have been discussing a number of issues and a number of positive things with the National Education Policy that was released and it was passed by the Prime Minister and the MHRD last week. Today with us, we have Mr. M.G. Devasahayam, who's a decorated IAS officer. He's a man who served with the army. He's seen a large checkered part of India's history. One of the major points of contention with the NEP, the National Education Policy that will now govern India for the next how many ever decades it takes for us to get a new one, is the issue of what languages will be implemented in the school system. Tamil Nadu, of course, has had a two-language policy for several decades now, but the NEP has a certain divergence from that. It suggests a three-language policy. So to begin the conversation, I'd like to ask Mr. M.G. Devasahayam to briefly talk to us about what he agrees with and what his objections are to the language portions of this NEP. I have with me today my colleagues Prajanna Das and Parati Beno. Thank you everybody for being with us. Mr. Devasahayam?
Yeah. Now, before going into objections or agreement, I will just briefly say the importance of language. Why these language issues become very prominent. See, if you look at the new education policy, there are hundreds of items, but hardly anybody is discussing those except passing references. But everybody is discussing language, particularly in Tamil Nadu. Reason is, language is the biggest identity for a human being. It is understood very clearly. Three identities that mark a human being, man or woman: language, religion, caste. Caste only in the Indian context. Other context, language and religion. So above all, it is a language which gives you the identity. Now I will give an example of Europe. Europe is almost entirely Christian. Entirely Christian. But look at the kind of languages. You don't call all Christians in Europe. You call them Spanish, French, German, Portuguese. So since it gives the identity to a human being, it's an extremely sensitive subject. It has to be dealt with in an extremely sensitive manner. Unfortunately, governments have not been dealing with in a sensitive manner at all. Now we have diverse languages. Now this kind of what I said, this identity gives you the real purpose of what India is, the idea of India. Unity in diversity. And language is our best diversity. We have to bring out unity by using this diversity. But unfortunately, it's not now. Starting from the post-independence, starting from 1948, when the first National Education Commission was formed, they have been messing up with this, sort of tinkering with this, three language, two language, three language, two language. At the end of the day, they have created a chaotic situation. Now, I'll briefly coming to the National Education Policy. Now, three language policy, as you are going to take up later, has been under dispute for a long time. It's nothing new. Tamil Nadu, of course, was in the vanguard, other states also to some extent. But, this three language policy could not be implemented because of the word imposition. What you tried to achieve through imposition but failed. Now we are trying to achieve through default. So by default, you are going to create a situation where you are keeping Hindi and Sanskrit there. And I know how the three language formula was implemented earlier. I was in Chandigarh and Punjab University provided Telugu as their third language. There were two students and one teacher. So it was a joke. Throughout the rest of India, except people studying Hindi, other languages, some of them even older than Sanskrit and Hindi, much older than Hindi, and even older than Sanskrit. Tamil is recognized, officially now recognized as the oldest language in the world. So all these are there because of sensitive nature. You have to be very careful. So now what they have brought in now is you have to study 3 languages from third age 3 onwards, which is not the right thing to do. If let me study my mother tongue, groom myself, study the second language. English, without English we can't survive. Then you have 22 languages in India. If as I grow old, as I become sort of eligible for jobs, I am looking for jobs and opportunity, I can always study the language and go to that state. For instance, even if I study Hindi and Sanskrit now, if I land up in Bengal or Assam, what will I do? I'll give another example and conclude my preliminary observation. In the IAS, the service of which I belong, you have about 50, even more than 50. Only less than 50% people are allotted to their own states, of their mother tongue states. Rest are allotted to the various All India services, various other states. For instance, I was allotted to Haryana, where the official language is Hindi. But people are being allotted to other states also. So they go there. They have no idea about the language at all, whether it is Bengali or Marathi or Gujarati, but they go there. They have to study, pass a departmental examination. Unless they do that within 2 years, they will not get promotion. And all my colleagues did it. See, you can always pick up the language. You don't find any difficulty at all. Finally, this worship of Sanskrit, I don't understand. You read the NEP, they are worshipping Sanskrit because it is Brahminical language. That's a wrong thing to do. What advantage Sanskrit has got from the other classical languages? It's a dead language, not a practicing language. So this overemphasis on Sanskrit is a wrong thing to do. This is my initial observation.
So you use the word imposition. Now, this is the word that a lot of people in Tamil Nadu have grown up with. Hindi imposition is something that has been trending on Twitter every time this issue comes up. But when we look at the issue itself, what do you think is behind this whole language policy in terms of why do you see it as an imposition, and why do, especially you mentioned that Tamil Nadu is at the vanguard of this battle against keeping a third language or Hindi out. The other side talks about it being a unifying language and about bringing India together. And these are some of the arguments that people have. What do you think is the intention behind wanting, say, Hindi or Sanskrit across schools, across languages, across regions in India?
When I say something, I say it with a sense of responsibility and experience. I am a Tamil who have studied in Tamil medium and got into the army, roamed around almost throughout the country in different areas. In army, the functioning language is Hindi. I had no problem. Even Madras regiment, I belong to the Madras regiment, where not even only Hindi speaking fellow is there. They're all either Tamils or Malayalis or Kannadigas and Telugus. In spite of that, our functioning language is official communication language within the battalion, within the unit is Hindi. I had no problem. Then I went to Haryana, which is official language is Hindi. So, but the problem is Hindi can unite the country is absolute fallacy. In a country like India, one language, let alone Hindi, Sanskrit, no way. Sanskrit is a dead language. It is only in scriptures. Hindi is a functional language, but hardly 20, 30, 40% people are really working in Hindi. I mean, India has got so many dialects. So I think it's a fallacy if anyone says that Hindi can unite. So that's a fallacious argument. Then as far as imposition is concerned, now they have removed the word imposition. That's what I said. They want to do it by default. So there's a difference between, because even now without Hindi, you see in Tamil Nadu, India has made huge inroads. IIT Madras only displays boards only in English and Hindi. If a Tamil parent or a Telugu parent or a Karnataka, Malayali parent go there, he doesn't know where to go.
Similarly, so the demographics actually suggest that a majority of the students in IIT Madras are from Andhra Pradesh and Telangana.
Yeah.
From Tamil Nadu, of course. And a very small proportion of them are Hindi speaking. It's an interesting point that you make. It's a very, very interesting point.
Not only that, even the railway ticket, even announcement. As I am coming from Delhi, flying from Delhi to Chennai, the announcement is only in Hindi and English. Nothing Tamil. Same with other languages also. So imposition is already taking place. Here they are not using the word imposition. They are not using the word compulsory. They are using the word optional, but by default. They will see to it that everyone follows the Hindi language.
So option by default automatically means that it's saying you have the option, but one of it has to be Hindi. Is that what you interpret from the policy?
It's like the famous Henry Ford quotation. All colors are fine as long as it is black.
NEP has given a lot of importance to the cultural and linguistic importance of the other 8 scheduled languages also. Do you think that is something that the government is really serious about, or do you think it's just a eyewash and it's all about uh, propagating Hindi and Sanskrit?
It's an eyewash because I saw it in Chandigarh. Absolutely, they don't even touch any South Indian language. They don't even want to go anywhere near. Even if they come to Tamil Nadu, they speak only in Hindi. They would not like to even learn the elements of local language. So this is the hegemonistic views already there. All these are dressings. Already we are giving art, culture and all these languages. But in practice, what is going to happen? You see, in the government of India, there's an exclusive department for promotion of Hindi. Government of India is full-fledged department. There is secretary to the government for propagating and promoting Hindi. Do they have a department for propagating, promoting other languages? At least the classical languages? No. This is only eyewash. You're right.
But there is a mention of all of the other 8 languages, and there is at least some literature in the policy that talks about how some importance has to be given to make sure languages are preserved. Do you see this as something that they will seriously pursue, whether it is Tamil or Telugu or Kannada or Malayalam?
I think it is nothing but pontification. They want to sort of what do you call that, weaken the opposition by saying that, see, we are giving all importance to these languages, but in practice, the way they have mentioned about Sanskrit, have they mentioned about any other language? At least they should. I mean, I'm not a sort of parochial. At least they should have mentioned similar language about at least Tamil, though, is older than Sanskrit. No, they would not do it. We have a minister for HRD, which is now going to be Department of Education, leading one of the top educationists in Tamil Nadu, a close friend of mine. He went to converse with him, who has several university. I mean, he runs university and colleges. He doesn't know a word about Hindi. He can't speak Hindi. He was trying to speak in English, but the minister will not speak a word in English. He was speaking in Hindi. So he just couldn't understand, hurriedly said something and came back. So even a leading, highly educated educationist from Tamil Nadu cannot communicate with the Union Minister of Education. How else are they going to promote the other languages?
The new education policy talks increasingly about all the other native Indian languages. Do we really have enough teachers in our schools to teach these languages?
No, we just do not have. We at best have for the regional language and to some extent Hindi. The problem here is economics of scale. Do we have a critical mass? Can the schools afford? As I told you in Chandigarh, my experience was 2 students and 1 teacher. Now, when there will be no demand, how will schools afford to employ a teacher? When there is no demand, no use imparting training, culture, but demand simply will not be there. So I don't think these training teachers, enough teachers, providing teachers, I think it's a utopian idea. I don't think it's going to work.
So do you think that the Kasturi Rangan committee would not have realized this when they did the framework for the policy?
No, they know everything. You see, I have been involved from the very beginning. So many representations have gone, all these have been pointed out. It's all in front of them, but they just ignored it and threw it into the waste paper basket, and they have announced the final policy almost verbatim of what? A summary of that 480 pages. I don't think they have made even outside language. They have not made any changes which is needed. They are only thinking about this, providing for, as somebody said, the best quote I have seen so far is, the British Macaulay education was for producing clerks and translators, Dubashis and Babus for the British government. Now this policy is producing techies for multinationals to recruit and prosper. That's the only difference.
We spoke about, we briefly touched upon how Tamil Nadu has been at the forefront of the agitation against Hindi, and successive governments ever since Annadurai, 1968, he passed in the Tamil Nadu Assembly a resolution against having Hindi as an official language, and brought in the 2-language policy, which was at that time very revolutionary for a state, especially in the south of India, to have only Tamil and English as the 2 major languages in our education system. Successive governments, whether it's the DMK or the ADMK, Jayalalitha has done, Karunanidhi has done it, they've very steadfastly sort of opposed any sort of incursions to this policy, and we have maintained a very, very good average in terms of our gross enrollment, in terms of the kind of numbers that we're putting out, in terms of the quality of the students that we've been producing in Tamil Nadu. Uh, Over the time, because you've seen these policies, being made, you've seen the product of these policies come out. Tell us what was happening back then in 1968 and in the 70s when this policy was passed. How was public perception then? How has public perception changed now?
No, the public perception even at that time, you see, I was in the army at that time when this anti-Hindi agitation took place. I have been witness to the violence that took place. It was massive by any means. Army had to intervene to bring things. In fact, my battalion had to intervene, which was based at that time in Madukare near Coimbatore. We had to intervene in Pollachi and one or two other places to bring things under control. That the feelings of the people was running high. As I told you earlier, language is an extremely sensitive subject. You see, as it is, there's a sense of oppression and repression, sense of injustice. I am now talking about the South. I worked in the North. The South feeling is, though in other states like Kerala and Karnataka, Andhra, it may not be that explicit. Tamil Nadu, it is explicit. There's a feeling that we are providing for the subsistence of the North. The main revenue to the Indian coffers comes from these four states, and outside is Maharashtra and Gujarat. We are providing for the entire. So even then, there is a feeling that South is not being taken care of well, and it is really not being recognized. So when that is so, because I also saw it in the North, Hindi people just don't bother. No other language of any concern to them. It has to be mutual respect. If Tamilian is learning Hindi, the Hindi fellow also learns Tamil, he has no problem. Okay, he is learning my language also, I am happy. But he doesn't do it. It is your language, scant respect. Only you are made to learn under the contention that is an official language, which is, that's what I said. You may impose, you may bring policies, but the heart of the people, if he will say, my identity will be lost, it is again threat to the identity. It's not only speaking a language, or writing a language, or reading a language. The identity issue is very, very important. So in Tamil Nadu, this identity issue is very strong, because basically because of the Periyarite movement and other things, Dravidian movement. So because of the identity, Tamil identity is very strong. The opposition to this Hindi thing is also very strong in Tamil Nadu.
So, but when you look at it politically, if successive governments are pushing the same policy, does it mean that politically this was a strategic move that you had to follow? Or did you feel that it was only because people believed so strongly in it and that it was a campaign plan that the two-language policy stood for so long?
No, it's people support was there, but for people support, no political party can stand. See, politically, it is very convenient for, that's why these two parties have immediately taken a stand. Even all the political parties have now taken a stand that we will not oppose three-language policy. They are even calling it imposition, though it is not imposition. They feel that it is going to be an imposition. For political survival, Hindi, the language language policy is very critical for the political survival for any political party in Tamil Nadu. So I think it runs deep into the veins, except for a microscopic minority who will feel that, kya hai, Hindi pad lenge, we will go and learn Hindi. Nobody has problem in learning English. But Hindi, there are people. See, Hindi also, let me tell you, as I was seeing figures, Hindi learners in Tamil Nadu is a very vast number. Hindi Prachar Sabha, of which my friend is a chairman, Mr. Gopalasamy, I was talking to him once. He says people are coming voluntarily and learning. There's no issue. See, let me tell you one thing. For someone Tamil, I can't speak of other languages, learning Hindi is child's play. Compared to Tamil, Hindi is a very easy language, whether to read, write, even to speak. So learning a language is no issue at all. But the question is, why are you manipulating your policies? First you said impose, then now I'll say, all right, option, imposition through option. So I don't think they should touch upon this. They must say, basically, originally education was a state subject. Okay. And state was deciding on anything. Center was only issuing guidelines and policies, not binding on state at all. Then Madam Gandhi brought it under the concurrent list. Center has to do it in consultation with state. state again was independent. Now what they are doing is the DBS thing. Now let me come to the DBS part of it. If you read the education policy in full, their financial body, regulatory body, academic body, accreditation body, all these are going to be centrally controlled. There's going to be a committee headed by the Prime Minister himself. So everything will be controlled by the center.
Would you go as far as to say that they've effectively emasculated all the states and their respective education systems and their power as far as the education systems are concerned?
Absolutely. I have written very strong words on that. Actually, they are, see, at least Madam Gandhi during the emergency brought a constitutional amendment to make it from state to center. Now with this policy and other measures, the present government, which is averse to federalism, they are looking at unilateralism, they are completely killing the state's role. And now by controlling the regulation, controlling the finance, controlling the accreditation, they can do anything. They can they can completely put pressure on the states to follow their means. Otherwise, they will not accredit. They will not give money.
Were you surprised when the Chief Minister, Mr. Edappadi K. Palaniswamy, came out with a very strong statement against the three-language policy, considering that the last election was fought on the same plank as the BJP? Were you surprised by his statement that they will not allow, he categorically stated that they will not allow the three-language policy into Tamil Nadu? Did that surprise you at all?
It was not surprising at all. Another 8 months, there is going to be an election. If you had given any other statement welcoming, ADMK would have been wiped out, like they were wiped out in the parliament. So it is a political pragmatism that what he did.
The education in mother tongue is being propagated now, and it's gone into everything from mathematics to astronomy to linguistics, culture. Do you think this will have a very detrimental effect on the students from marginalized backgrounds, given that English was a means through which they could aspire to get better jobs?
See, this argument being put forward by some people, but I disagree. I am from a disadvantaged place at that point of time. Distant town of Tamil Nadu, Nagarkoil, small town. But fortunately, we had good education facilities. But the question is, no, my learning Tamil, medium of language, medium of instruction, still SSLC, did not hamper me. And learning English only at 5th standard, 6th standard onwards, did not hamper my education in any manner, my advancement in any manner. The question is a quality. See, I was talking to an educationist just now before coming for this program. He was telling me that teaching Hindi, teaching a language and medium of instruction are different. So we, people like us, feel that before going for medium of instruction as English, the child must have enough proficiency in the language. Otherwise, he or she, the child will not understand. So, in a way, they must learn English from the very beginning as a language. Then, at a particular time, maybe now we have the higher secondary school. Our time, it was only college. You went on to a medium of education, English medium of education. I think it's not going to hamper in any manner. So I think that's not the correct argument. I disagree with that argument. That, when you learn in your own language, your absorbing capacity is much better. See, in any case, when somebody is teaching you, let's say, I'll tell you what happens. A funny thing will happen in a child's brain. You people also must have experienced it. When the teacher is teaching in English, you will first try and understand it in your own language. Then try to translate within your brain to English. That's what actually happens. So this is a very complicated matter. So it's better to learn the rudiments in your own mother tongue. Then at the appropriate time, take the English as your medium of instruction.
Sir, increasingly on social media these days, we see people, especially Tamilians, being trolled for opposing Hindi imposition. And a narrative has been pushed saying that Tamils hate Hindi. Is that true?
Not at all. See, that generation in the 60s, generation younger to me, yes, there was a brief hatred, yes, because of the imposition and Dravidian parties making it an issue, making it a political issue, there was briefly. Otherwise, there is no hatred. It's totally wrong. See, this Sanghi crowd, they will troll and do any kind of nonsense. I don't think any Tamil hate any language for the purpose. Now, least alone Hindi. There's no question of hatred. Only that, again, I'm coming back to the original point. You are hitting at our identity. You are trying to destroy our identity by imposing your language. No language per se, no hatred whatsoever. That's a totally fallacious argument.
Which brings us squarely to the question of Sanskrit. Now, you touched upon Sanskrit a little earlier. Sanskrit has been a sort of bone of contention for the last 6 years, ever since this current government has come in. There have been many accusations that there has been Sanskritization of the education system. There have been attempts to mainstream Sanskrit in some small way or the other. These have been allegations that have been coming in. However, when we read the literature of the NEP, and we went through it with a bit of a fine comb yesterday, and we found that it uses very broad, positive language that talks about how we can mainstream Sanskrit and take it to a larger audience, how we can use it in innovative ways to teach students, encapsulate little bits of Sanskrit and mathematics, astronomy, in yoga, in dance, in culture, and so on and so forth, and ensure that Sanskrit is taught to all students because it is one of the most classic languages of India. This is the text of the NEP, right? Where do you think this comes from, and do you see this as necessarily a healthy trend?
Why all this about a dead language? If you want to do this, the intention is good. If at all they want to do this with a functional language, they must do it with Tamil. And why can't we try and develop Hindi, which is a functional language? Make it rich. India has drawn a lot of things from Sanskrit. A lot of commonalities between Hindi and Sanskrit. Why can't they do it in Hindi, which is the official language? Why Sanskrit? There's a devious agenda there to impose certain amount of culture and hegemony over the people of India. I strongly oppose this Sanskritization, which has no relevance. And they are talking about Vishwa Guru banayenge, who will be world leaders, global leaders. What can Sanskrit do to take you to the global leaders?
In a recent conversation, Mr. Subramaniam Swamy raised the issue of Sanskrit, and he was of the opinion that, he pointed out rather that 40% of Tamil was Sanskrit, and Bengali, Malayalam had a large quantum of Sanskrit. And he, of course, spoke about how we should keep developing Hindi and Sanskrit in a way in which both languages were indistinguishable. It's sort of what you just referred to right now. But if that happens, what do you think the implications will be?
Subramaniam Swamy, once upon a time, was a friend of mine. He is from that class who advocates Sanskrit. Why? Do it for Hindi. If Hindi has absorbed Sanskrit, develop Hindi. Tamil has not absorbed Sanskrit, which is totally wrong. 40% Tamil, Sanskrit totally wrong. Maybe a very small kind of thing. Some other languages have absorbed. No, develop their Hindi. Why Sanskrit? That's the question.
Tamil Nadu, of course, has now made the stand. We don't know how many other states will be in unison. There have been very partisan, far and few voices that have talked about the language, because there are larger constructs and criticisms about the NEP itself. In conclusion, Mr. Devasahayam, if you had the opportunity to prune or change anything about the current language portion of this NEP, what would your recommendation be?
Concentrate on your mother tongue as they have done. Teach mother tongue as language and also as medium of instruction till a certain period. I would say here we can talk about up to 8th standard. Then English and other languages can come later.
But are you saying that English should not be even taught as a second language from say the first standard or so?
I would advocate the model through which I went through. Do not disturb the child till he or she is up to this certain standards, 8th standard. Only the mother tongue. Don't bring in the other 2, 3 language. Don't impose this cognitive capacity is highly disputed. They are saying between 3 and 8 children are highly cognitive. And some experts are saying yes, many experts are saying no. Even Europe is not following that. Advanced countries are not following that. So I think this model that with some modifications may be suitable for the country, and I don't think anybody will have objection to that.
Do feel free to like, share and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram.